Okay, perfect. Cool. So week 2. So we're gonna look at classes and object-oriented programming basics. We skip the promises. We're gonna have another look to the Node package management system, and then we're gonna use this bubble, which is a transpiler that will allow us to use ES6.
But we can't use it like right now. Or no?
You basically you can use most of the feature of ES6,
Okay.
but some of that they need to be transpiled. Let's say all the import export part. Node is still relying on its own mechanism.
Okay.
But we don't have to worry about that because there are transpilers that will do that. But I'm sure that Node is gonna.
Yeah, it's very complicated because what Babel does is actually not what ES6 does. It does ES6. Babel's import is working in a very specific way, but it's actually Babel that makes it so that Node cannot do native imports. That's the whole story.
Yeah, but I mean the point.
Import, yeah, you cannot do import.
The important that you can use the import in Node yet.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that in the next version or something like that it will come. I know they are working on that. Alrighty. So object-oriented programming. What is it? So OP refers to a type of computer programming, software design, in which programmers define not only the data type of the data structure, but also the types of operation functions that can be applied to the data structure. So first of all, let's understand what is a data structure. What is a data structure? Can anyone give me an example of a data structure?
Yeah, how do we build the data?
Yeah. So for example, an array. Array has objects. So those are data structures. This is the way you will represent some data, but from a software point of view. So sometimes you wanna represent, I don't know, your shopping list. That could be an array, right? Could be an array of objects. So those are data structures, and there are many data structures. Some are native, so some are like array and objects. They are embedded in the programming language, and other data structure you need to build yourself. They are a bit more complex, but you can build with simpler data structures. So if you read it again and say, OP refers to the type of computer programming in which programmers define not only the data type of the data structure, but also the types of operations, functions. So what it means that in OP, we are not only defining data structures, but also we are defining how we want to manipulate the data structures. So those functions that he's talking about are the methods. Okay, if we take a class as a blueprint, the OP, this is the definition of OP. If you go on Wikipedia, you will find this one. But the OP, in plain English, is that you design your software, you model your software, you design your software with objects. So let's say we want to build a game, and there's a racing game. You will have a car. It's a model. Then inside the car there is an engine, and the engine is another data structure with some functions. So it's another model, and so on and so forth. So you see that there is, in the same way, we represent a car in our world made by different objects. It's exactly the same we design our software. We reflect as much as possible what happened in a real world, in a software, in the computer world, in the software design world. So in fact, you will see that gaming, for example, in gaming, OP is widely used because it makes a lot of sense, right? When you want to create a new character, you have a blueprint of a character that could be a class, and then you create a new character. And we're gonna look at this, what is blueprint and what is the class and new methods and so on and so forth. But the idea, like the concept behind now, besides JavaScript or whatever, is to model your software. Then the objects in your software they reflect the real world.
I got a question.
Yes.
It's like it's kind of opposite, I mean, to functional programming in a way that you need to choose one way, or you can like work with both of them together.
No, you can mix. In reality, there is never. At least in my opinion, it's hard to be so purist to. But in some scenarios, OOP makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
In some other scenarios, other kind of type of programming makes sense. Obviously, it depends on what are you trying to do. For example, as I said, in gaming, if you make a game, OP is the obvious choice.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing, let's say, a streaming service, maybe functional programming makes more sense.
I recall reading somewhere that JavaScript is a little bit more suitable for functional programming than other languages.
No, I think with the ES6 we got all the functionality for implement proper OOP.
Fair enough.
Another question, just to understand the type
Yes.
of functions that you've applied. Is that like the prototypes on an array, like the baked-in functions?
Yes.
That can be applied to array. Okay.
Yes. So that's a method somehow.
Yeah. Okay.
So like you create a new array. You create new array. Obviously you don't write new array because usually you just define it.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can do new array.
So
if you want to.
Inherited methods from the first.
So you can do actually this.
Array is also an object.
Sorry?
Array is also an object.
Oh yeah.
So you can do this, right?
Yeah.
So you can create a new array. And this is array length 10 empty.
Cool.
And then on A you have some methods. So for example, I can concat, and then also have some properties. Let's say length. So that's the idea. But obviously, array doesn't really represent doesn't exist in the real world. What is an array in the real world?
A list.
Yeah, but what about a person? Wouldn't be cool to do const new with a name Marco and age 32 and so on and so forth. So that's what I'm trying to say here, right? We create a data structure with some methods, which they actually represent a real thing in the real world. So we have a one-to-one matching. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And that person thing has its own data structure that is a mix of data structure that you already know. Could be an array, could be objects or strings or whatever, right? So that's our goal of OOP. OOP is it wants you to think with the real objects. Okay. Cool. Okay, so now we go to the class. And the class is the first keyword that we're going to use to actually create new data structure. Okay, so in OOP, a class is an extensible, this is the definition, and you can read more on the link underneath. In object-oriented programming, a class is an extensible program code template for creating objects. This is pretty much what it is. A code template. So what is a template? It's something that you take and from a template you create something new, right? That's the code template. And this is creating objects, because that's what it is in JavaScript. You create objects. Providing initial values for the state. That's the constructor part. an implementation of the behavior, and those are the methods. So when we create a new, when the class is our blueprint, is our template, then we create new things. They will have state, variables, properties, and functions, which are our methods. Pretty much we did with array. When you create a new array, you can pass some initial value. Do you remember I passed 10? I did a new array 10. That's the initial value. And then I create a new array, which have properties, which is the property of an array. Length, right? That's a property of an array. And then it has some methods, which could be concat, split, splice, or whatever. Okay. So let's see a class in ES6. So this is an example. This is a class rectangle, and a class rectangle has you can pass some initial value, height, and width. I assign this height and width to the class, so those are available inside the class. They can be accessed with this height and this width. And then I got two methods. One area and one calc area. And you can see there is a get before the method here. This doesn't, but this does have. So this is a get. It's a getter. We have a getter and setter. This is a getter. Means that you can basically call this without the parentheses. I'm going to show you this later in an example. But this is how you write a class. So you see the class has some properties, height and width, and it has some methods. In this case, area and calc area. And this is how you use it on the right here. So you say a square is a new rectangle with the height 10 and width 10. And then if you want to know the area, you can do square dot area. So you see, I'm creating a new data structure that has methods and properties.
What is the difference between that get area and calculate area?
Yeah, so you see, this get area allows me to don't have the parentheses here, basically.
Oh.
You see? This looks like a property.
Oh.
But
If-
it's method.
Hmm?
It looks like a property, but it is method. Yeah.
So this is like a property from outside, but from the ES6 point of view, from the class point of view, is another method with a get this is called a modifier. But if I remove this get, this is still fine. And then this will be area, and then there will be parentheses like a function.
You have to copy it.
In fact, you can see that actually this is calling this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what I would like to achieve. We need to work together now. So I assume that everybody has Node installed and we are up and running, right? Perfect. So the idea is to create a small contact list. A class for a contact list. We're gonna create. You can do either way. You can start simple by just create a contact list as a class. I'm gonna kickstart this with you, so we start a little bit together, and then I'll let you run alone. And then we can do an upgrade later by creating also another class for just contact. Okay, but the idea is to use this template, so the class template, to create a contact list. I'll start together with you just to give you some context. Okay, so I'm gonna create this class, and I create a new file in there. We all agree on this, right? Can you read it? Okay. So we said that we can use the class contact list. So this is a class. This is how you create a class. Like there is the function keyword, there is a class keyword. So class has a constructor, and the constructors take some initial values. In our case, let's say the contact list, we don't need to have any initial value. But what do you do with the contact list? What do you do when you're on the phone? What you can do with the contact list? What would be one classic operation to do with the contact list?
Look for numbers.
Search. So okay, let's write search. Yeah, and before search, add some contacts. Then add contacts. Then delete. Modify. So like print all the list. So let's say get all contacts.
Groups.
Okay, let's keep it simple. Let's say that we can just add, delete, modify, search, and just output all the contact lists. So that would be, let's say you wanna read all the contacts in one go. Okay, so those are the five, 5 things that I want to do. So how we can model the contact list? What would be a good way to model a contact list? We need to store those contacts in some data structure.
With an object.
An object.
An array of objects.
An array of objects. So we can have. So we can create this list. We can actually create a constructor. So the constructor is that function that runs when you call new. So when you create new something, that's the constructor run. So when you create new something, you can, for example, do some initialization work.
You create instances.
Yeah, you create instance of the class. Yeah, exactly. So when you create a new instance, you run constructor. So let's call it something like this. So I will just create an empty list. This will be my contact list. Does make sense? So this will store my contacts. Okay, cool. So add. So add will take. If we go back to the slides. So you see my contact list as a method called add, and we will pass an object. That's the easy version. Then we're gonna make an extra improvement on this. But let's start by passing an object. Okay. So this will be an object. So let's call it contact. And what do you do for add? Yes. So basically, contact list.add will push the object to the list. Cool. So this is add. It's done. Now delete. What delete will do?
Gonna pop.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. So we can do it in two ways, right? We can have an index here, So we can say if index, if it's not defined, so they'll say if index, let's say if it's null, it will pop. Otherwise, we need to delete in that specific location of the index, right?
Okay.
Slash.
So there will be
Slash.
this will return here in case. So let's do like this. So we add a little bit of validation as well. So if your index is a number, then we need to check if the element that we want to delete exists.
Okay.
So we need to another check, right? So then if this then create, then we can use splice. So splice
Index.
so start, that would be the index, one,
One. There.
right? And then if you read the documentation, and this return the delayed elements, so it's it will change the list itself. Okay. And so when we delete also, so you need to do this check. You know why? Because otherwise, if you say index 23 and array is 7, then you cannot delete the element at 23 because it's no longer 23, right? Okay. What we can do here?
Sorry, splice, return the element that we
deleted, you see?
deleted? Okay.
Removes element from array, and if necessary, insert new elements in their place, returning the delete element.
Nice. So we could actually have like the recycle bin, you know, like
We could save this somewhere. For example.
somewhere.
Yeah. Here we can try an error. Let's say error, no element at index. Actually, let's use this one. Then we can have the ES6 interpolation. Okay. So, for example, we could try an error in case the index doesn't exist. We can say to the user, throw error, no element, and index. Okay, maybe. Does make sense? And the same here, we can throw another error and say index must be a number. Okay. We could also add some validation here, okay? I'll leave a node. Add some validation here. Okay, cool. So I'll share now this code on Slack. Let's take I don't know, half an hour. Yeah, let's say at 20. So it's like half an hour, and you try to finish it off. Boom. Did I put it in the right place? Yes. So in case you don't have it, you can copy and paste from Slack. Otherwise, you just carry on. Yeah, probably me too. Yeah, I'm gonna.
No, it's just a theoretical thing. we don't know. We're just thinking on the thing like it was in theory. You know, like the object itself. Don't worry about it. Probably it's gonna be like type.
What do you say? Why do you say this as contact?
When you get the function, you already have some value in parameter. And a new value first have to get the value.
Yeah, actually, I don't know exactly how it's.
So you need a way to search
Then
Right.
you can answer it easily. It's like another variable.
because you need to find this contact inside the list. So you need to
I'm not very sure about the modifying how we should be the approach because we don't know exactly how the the contact element itself is gonna be. I mean, for sure it's gonna have the name and the number, but we still haven't defined it. So actually, I don't know how the guys are. What approach?
Yes, but okay, so instead of writing the code, try and describe how you have this fucking work. Like what's your plan? What's your plan right now?
The current name and the new name.
Yes. Okay. So how do you find data in the list?
The index by index.
Yeah. You have to write some code to find each contact in the list. The next question is, what does it mean to update a contact? Because right now you're taking in one contact.
The
Like,
new name.
is this the new contact or is that the old contact? So it's because yes. Okay. So that's the question. I mean, because this update function is not, you need to be more specific. What does it do? Because right now you're just taking a contact, but is that the old contact? Is that the new contact? And you need to figure out how are you going to find the old contact and how are you going to change it into the new one. So you can, like, there's multiple ways you can do this. You can have like an argument called old contact, one called new contact, which just replaces the old contact. Or you could have like a contact and then a function, and then the function gets access to the contact and gets to update it. Like there's multiple ways you can do this. I think the simplest one is probably old contact and new contact, and then it just replaces the old contact. I think that's the easiest one.
Sorry, you were talking about modifying?
Yeah.
I was thinking that probably has to do with the contact itself, but still we don't know exactly how it's going to be the structure of the contact.
Yeah. Exactly. So the modify function is a bit tricky because what does it mean to modify a contact?
Yeah.
Does that mean you replace it, or does it mean
you edit like the info you got? Yeah, I just keep it for that reason. But yeah, you could like put one new contact as a replacement. That has sense.
Yeah, I think that's the simplest one.
But in the contact, if I want to change the name, I want the same number, I want to change the name.
Yeah,
that's two divisions.
Yeah, exactly.
So how we can write the code for it?
Exactly. It's a bit tricky, right? It's because when you think about, you have a contact list like in your head, you think I'm gonna go modify it. Like that means I'm gonna find the contact and I'm gonna change something.
Yeah.
But what does it mean in code to do that? Does that mean you find the contact and then you pass it to a function that gets to update it? Or does it mean that you take the old contact and replace it with a new contact?
Yeah.
Those two are the same thing, but it's two different ways to programmatically do the thing.
Also, then it is first we have to use search.
That could be an idea. If you want to reuse the same functionality, yeah, that's a good idea. So then comes search is also tricky. But search is tricky for other reasons. But yeah, try and
Why?
implement search. Yeah, well, you'll see when you implement search.
You can search by name, you can search by number.
Some validation like this. Sometimes it's just before.
It's easy. Using the search function, I can
What I normally do when I need to like
You can what?
the basic data structure we work with.
Okay, yeah, you can reuse it. The
So
contact.
what I normally do when I need to work with arrays is I go to a web. This is just a personal tip. But there's a website called Mozilla Developer Network. Yeah, you can look up array on there, and then you can see all the functions you have available on array. And then, to me, a lot of the time when you see all the functions, you kind of like, then you can see, okay, this is the function I need right now. Exactly. So I see you've been to that page. So out here inside, you
the
can see all the methods.
C program.
So if you
you
look at the
get the
methods, maybe
input,
that's one that's
you store it in a variable, and that variable you make it as a search.
so that's totally fine to find index.
Ah, you have experience in C? Oh, that's
So
cool,
it's
man.
what-
So
all good.
low level programming.
So have a look at that. See, maybe that fits whatever you're looking at.
Another info. Save.
So when you do modify, try to think about, let's say the name is the key. So when you modify it, you wanna give the name, find by the name, and then update, let's say, the phone number. You can or you can give the index and then update everything. Either way.
Yeah, I mean, but we're not sure exactly of the structure of the contact
Yeah,
itself.
yeah, exactly. So this is actually a really good point. So the structure is this. So it's a name and phone.
Name and phone.
Yeah.
Those are the two.
And this could be a string as well, because will contain plus and so.
But Marco, the question is:
Mhm.
Is that your real phone number?
Actually, it is.
Man.
Yeah.
But you know the privacy things.
No, actually, it's not because of the privacy thing. I changed one number.
Oh man!
So you don't know what number I changed,
I'm gonna try all the combinations.
but it will take a while.
Okay. Okay.
It will take a
So
while.
Node is gonna do it for me,
And
man.
I know you're gonna write now a script that will. Okay, no, but that's almost my real number. But actually, my real number is public. So if you go on my website, it's this one. So it's not a big surprise. Just Google my name. And,
Oh, let's look at that. Okay, come on, go back.
It's
Not about the number. It's about the page.
So this is my CV.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, but that's not a part of the course. Okay, so is everybody done, or we need 10 more minutes?
You say half an hour. Is that half an hour?
I think it's been half an hour, yeah. Almost. So modify you can do two ways, right? You can modify and pass the index of the, the index of the element of the array. So let's say you want to modify number 3. Or you can modify and use the search function, let's say by name. So that could be modify marker, right? Also, when you add, I was actually thinking about it. When you add, there is a restriction that you cannot add the same name. So you cannot have in a contact list 2 people called Marco. You need to.
Would we be in trouble?
They would be in trouble. So you don't, because otherwise you don't know who we are calling, right? So you need to have. So when you add, you need to check that name is not already taken. That makes sense what I said, or okay, yeah. Think about like a real contact list. It should give you like a warning on error when you try to add 2 people with the same. And I think should be the same with the number. If you already have a number, it should tell you, well, this number is already taken. And if you have the search, if you implement the search with multiple keys, so you can search both on phone and name, then you can use actually the search inside add before do the operation.
If you don't understand that, also the keys.
So the search you could we have. So let's start from the beginning. We have our contact list. In the contact list, we got objects, right? A name and phone number. So you need to implement a search function. So the search function should be able to search both in name and in a number, right?
Come on, who's gonna search by phone number?
No, but you need that because when you add a new contact and that a phone number exists, you should have a warning.
Very good point.
So you need the search where you can do something like this. For example, key. And then you can have a default key on name. So you can actually do value, something like that. So you can search by default name, or otherwise you can pass a key and you can search in phone.
We can check the value if it is a string or a number.
No, also phone is a string, so don't worry about that.
Oh.
Yeah, phone is a string. The phone number is a string because it can have special characters.
Yeah.
So we treat the phone number as a string. It's okay. So when you have this search that you can search over both with on name and phone, then you can use an add contact here. So you can use the search by doing like this dot search and say contact dot name in name. You know, do this kind of thing. So then you can do the same like phone and phone.
Like how do you add the contact? Like we pass array to the
No, the array
object to the add also.
So yeah, the add function you pass an object. This contact is actually an object. If you go back, you can see that I'm passing an object here.
Okay.
Right?
So instead of that, we can do like pass name, 2 parameters, name and phone number. Then we can create object inside.
No. Add needs to have an object. The add needs to have an object. So you need to support an object when you add. This add is contact. This contact is an object. The contact here looks like this. So it will be something like this. So it will be name and phone, right?
Yeah.
And that would be my phone number, say. Okay, so this would be contact, right? Something like that. So you can run 2 searches, one over name and one over phone, using the same search function. Or you can also create 2 different search, and you can do search by name and search by phone number. Depends how you want to implement it. Another small trick, you can use this. If you're on Visual Studio Code, you can actually create documentation right into the code. So if you do / and 2 stars, you can see there is a JS doc comment. So if you hit enter now, when you have this thing open, it will say, it will basically prepare this for you automatically. And then you can say param contact, and actually here you can have the definition of contact, which could be name string and phone string contact. And then if you hit tab, it will go back to the description. Then you can see method for add contact. So this, when you create a new contact list here, when you do my contact list.add and you go over, you see that the documentation is injected in the Visual Studio Code. You see this method for add contact and this param. Yeah, that's a tiny trick there. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so my edit is quite simple. It will fully replace. So I'm just overwriting. So you again here you could have let's say edit by. So here you could improve and decide what you want to edit.
But you're just adding a new contact there.
No, I'm finding the index and I'm overwriting basically that contact with a new contact. I'm basically replacing it. That's my edit. It's quite simple. Okay, so I think this should be done now.
This actually would be a great homework.
Yeah, but homework is a bit more.
A little bit more.
A little bit more than this. This is kindergarten.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So let's start to use it. So you can. So if you are more or less done, we can try to use what our class and create some instances. This is called instances of the class. So if you see, if I run this, nothing happened. You see, nothing happened. But I want to create now my contact list. So I can do const my contact. Let's say. Okay. So this is how you create a new contact list. You remember the array? You see, I can pass the array length or I can't. You see there is a question mark. That means that it's optional. So I could also remove that one. You see, we are creating, now we are able to create a new data structure with new methods. Okay, cool. So now in my contact list, when I do dot, Visual Studio Code automatically detects properties, methods, and so on and so forth. Let's say I want to do add, says contact, and contact
Name.
Add.
Name and what?
I think we need that one. Let's see if we can. Yeah. So contact now you see is it's giving name and phone number as a string.
Mm-hmm.
So I can do name and then phone.
going to change the array. No, sir.
So I didn't get that one.
You cannot write like const of there because it is going to change the object, my context list object.
Which line? 72?
72, yeah.
You say I cannot do const?
Yeah.
He's saying because you're making a const, there's a const that. And
Because
then
you
you
cannot change.
Because you're changing that you should use. No, but that's. I mean,
That's,
you're not reassigning it. You're just.
No, I'm not reassigning this. I'm adding some objects inside the class. So this is fine.
Hey Marco,
Yeah.
quick thing. We're gonna do they're gonna do a 7 minute a break in 7 minutes.
Yes,
And I'm
yes.
thinking maybe we can switch classrooms.
Yes.
Because actually a few people there didn't show up, so they're much fewer. They don't need the big room.
Yes.
And I think you seem a bit more pressed for space.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, but sure.
yeah. Well, I mean the one opposite here, slightly bigger. So just in about 7 minutes, we'll do the break.
Okay, let's do that.
Got it.
Okay, fine. So now I want to print my contact list. So we'll do my contact list dot get all contacts. So let's see what happens here. Oops. Okay, yes.
Beautiful.
I was able to add a contact. So I will create another contact now. So let's say so I've got now 2. So let's say that I want to now I skipped this part, you see, add some validation here, and I didn't. So we said that we don't want to have
Twice the same name.
let's say
twice the
name
same
or,
number.
or the phone number. So we want they are unique. So what you could do here, we can check, right? So and then you can use the search function.
Search contact of name.
Yeah, exactly. So we can use the search function, and if it's basically the search function looks for an index, and this sum is like for each, but when you return true, it will stop going to the list. So it's a little bit quicker. It's the same as for each, but in the moment you return true, it will stop going through the array. It will just quit there. Sometimes you do with for each and you put a return.
Sorry, I was not. I don't know where I was, but can you explain me what you did there with the default in key name?
So the key by default I search for name. That means that if I do just search and a value and I don't pass this second argument,
okay.
it will be key will be name. Key will be name.
Okay. And the value, what is gonna be?
No, the value you need to pass it as no default value.
But what are we searching?
If you don't give anything,
okay,
you search
now
by
I got
name.
It. Now I got it.
But if you want, you can do comma phone and then we'll search into phone.
That's amazing.
You know what I mean?
Value.
Please share this.
Name here is a default value.
Yeah, it's a default value. So I mean, I could also remove this, and then you need to always write name if you are looking for name.
Very good.
It's the same. Okay, perfect. So here you could do this dot search, and then value will be. So we contact dot name. So here we could also write this, but I don't have to because it's already. So if this is a number, so type of. Why is a number? Because if you look at this function, index is not defined in the beginning. So if we find something here, this will return true, and index will be set to the I, which is the element that you found. And then I will save the I here, and I will return index. If this doesn't go through, index will be undefined. So if it's a number, it means that I found something. Okay. Okay. So if this is a number, then then I can say that I can throw an error, for example. Means that it could find something. Throw, and then we can say error. This contact with this name. With the name contact.name. Already exist. Okay. Then it's pretty much the same with phone. By the phone, I need to remember to pass phone here. Okay, and in both cases I need to return because I don't want that. I think if you throw, it will stop execution, so this is not needed. Okay, so let's now see if the validation works. So if I try to add twice Marco, well, let's say with a different phone number.
Beautiful.
Why this is not giving the contact?
Maybe you cannot use a string interpolation in the throw, I'm guessing.
No, I think then. What about this? Oh. Oh no, it's here. No, I think it's alright. It says this throw is returning this. So error, a contact with the name mark already exists. Cool. And the same here. So I can now have a different name, but the same phone number, and this should return the other error. Yeah, I'm trying to check the phone. Let's see what this returns. This should return a number. Okay, let's move and then I will debug this.